Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and today we've got a little bit of a serious video, because this is a subject that I feel quite strongly about, so if you at any point disagree, feel free to just move on, because this is clearly not something that you will enjoy listening to, but either way, let's get on with it. So, first things first, when is a price too good to be true? Now, if we look at the retail prices of AAA titles, they're all kind of looking to burn a hole in your pocket. So it's no wonder that people go looking for bargains or a good discount. I mean, let's have a look at a game that's just been released. So Doom, as I'm currently playing it, is currently on Steam for $60 or 60 euros. And I know the first thing you're going to say is that these two currencies are not equal, and so that price isn't fair. But what options do we have? So if we have a look at some of these sites that sell Doom much cheaper, we have Doom currently on sale on G2A for $46.54. That's in Singapore dollars on my local currency, which is roughly 33 to 34 US dollars. Now that's around $30 cheaper than it is on Steam. Now over on Kinguin, a copy of Doom will set you back 35 euros, a full 20 euros cheaper than the Steam retail price. And these are definitely attractive prices, don't get me wrong. But how are these prices even possible? I mean, surely selling games at this price could hardly sustain a business, let alone turn a profit. But, well, let's begin with what these stores are. They belong in a sector of the games industry known as the grey market. Now, a grey market is basically a place of trade that sits between the legal, which is white, and illegal, which is black forms of trading. So, in this case, sites like G2A and Kinguin trade via legal means, but not everything sold on the site has an entirely legal background. So, the keys themselves are sold through individual sellers. After you've set your sights on a game that you'd like to purchase, the site will then match you up with a seller to complete your purchase. Just imagine eBay or Craigslist, but for digital game keys, and you're on the right track. Since the sellers themselves are mostly anonymous individuals, that's where you run into a risky area. So where do the sellers get their keys then? Well, it's fairly simple. In order to sell a game cheap, you need to obtain it cheaper, and that's where the main problem lies. See, a large majority of keys found on grey market sites come from countries with weaker currencies. Previously, we've seen big publishers make a stand against grey market resellers. So Ubisoft has revoked copies of Far Cry 4 that were found to be sold through the grey market site G2A. In that incident, Ubisoft stated the keys were found to be purchased through EA's online distribution platform Origin using fraudulent credit cards and then resold. This statement was then later confirmed by EA, and this isn't the only story. Valve has previously revoked over 7,000 keys for Sniper Elite 3 that were purchased through grey market sites, and users who had their keys revoked were then told to go and seek refunds from the site that they purchased them from, something that isn't always possible. ZeniMax also warned players against purchasing Elder Scrolls Online from sites that were not on an approved list of distributors, or they would risk having their game accounts closed. So what's the effect of all of this? What happens when keys intended for lower currency countries end up being sold to countries they weren't intended for? Well, the effect is twofold, and that affects people that live in those regions that the keys are bought from. So let's begin with the game that I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, which is Doom. Now, in Singapore, this game retails for nearly 80 Singapore dollars, whereas in the US it's 60. And is this just because of currency exchange? Quite possibly, but there is more to it than that. Let's have a look at the other countries within Southeast Asia. So, in the Philippines, Doom retails for 2,670 Filipino pesos, and that's roughly about 57 US dollars. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, right? I mean, it's the same, roughly the same price that you pay in the US, until you realize what the income difference actually is. So, according to the World Bank, in 2014, the average income per year for people in the Philippines was 3,500 US dollars, and that's yearly. By comparison, the average yearly income in the US for the same year was around 55,000. Now, there's a much bigger percentage of your income going away when you buy just a single AAA game. And as we know, there's not just one game that releases a year, there's several. And it's the same story in Indonesia, India, Brazil, and Russia. So the first solution for games publishers to combat grey market sales was to make everyone across the globe pay the same exact retail price, $60 US, no matter what the currency was like. So then what happens if you live in a country that isn't affected by this? Well, that's where the second solution comes in, and this is the one that affects everyone. So we know about digital rights management, or DRM, and region locking. So region locking has been a thing since way back when video CDs and DVDs first became a thing to combat piracy. There were different encoding formats for different players, though you can only play it in a particular country, and this is something that happens on consoles from way back. So you couldn't purchase games from Japan, for example, and play that on a US PlayStation, for example. That was a thing that started way back when to kind of combat that. And now it's kind of ramped up even more, so we have region-locked keys. So region-locked games and keys are already a thing. And these levels of restrictions will only continue to go up, since publishers would obviously rather customers pay the price that they're asking for. So in 2014, Valve introduced Steam region locking to directly combat grey market trading, and the policy prevented users on Steam from gifting or trading games between regions. Hell, even until now, my own Steam account is not capable of gifting games to people outside of the Southeast Asian region, despite me paying effectively the same US dollar price for the game. Now, it hardly needs mentioning that paying less for games, especially when those games are stolen or fraudulently obtained, hurts game developers as well. It's simple enough to understand, isn't it? Money going into making a game combined with less money going back to developers equals broke developer. And so what can you do about it? Well, the first thing would be to only buy from authorized retailers. If you're not sure if a distributor is legitimate, don't buy from them. You'll be supporting retailers and ensuring that your purchase supports the developers whose games you get to enjoy. Now, don't forget, Steam is not the only PC platform you can buy games from. Sites like Gamersgate, Nuvum, Greenman Gaming, they're just examples of other authorized third-party distributors. I myself am a proud affiliate of Greenman Gaming, and the reason is because they're fast responsive and they usually have the latest games on sale from the moment that they're out. In fact, most of the games that are available on Steam can be found through Greenman Gaming as well. And of course, there are other sites such as the DRM-free marketplace, GOG.com. That's another place as well. So with Greenman Gaming, they also include the sources of the keys they sell on the site, so you know where they're coming from and you know whether it's legally or legitimately obtained. Oh, and of course the frequent sales and 20% off discount codes, such as the one I have for my own channel, will help as well. So while this isn't strictly a video to promote Greenman Gaming, or any distributor in general, this is really just a video to explain that some of the games are priced the way they are because of the systems that are currently in place. Now, it would be, in my opinion, to be a bit misguided to take purchasing from G2A or Kinguin or any other grey market site as a form of rebellion against the system, because ultimately the money you're paying is really just going to the people who are supporting this trade. Now, I'm not saying G2A and Kinguin themselves are illegal websites or anything like that, but that's the concept of grey market. The websites themselves are legally within the right light. However, any trading that happens on there tends to be a little bit more questionable. Now, there are legitimate keys sold on these sites too, some provided by developers or some provided by publishers. Others are from legitimate places where they found a discount and so on. But there are also other places where they're not, and as I've explained with the currency differences and that sort of thing, that those purchases may not be either morally correct or even legally correct. In some cases they come from bundle packs, such as those from Humble Bundle, but even those come with terms and conditions which do state that resale of any individual item inside of the bundle is not legally allowed. They do not actually allow you to resell any of that stuff. So just bear in mind that the stuff that you get, when a price is really, really low, there has to be a catch somewhere. Now, you might not pay the price directly, but just think of the people who actually are. So in conclusion, really, I personally do not support any grey market site, nor do I directly support people who do. Now, I do realise that in the making of this video that I do have a lot of apprehension with actually making this video, because a lot of the people that are good friends and colleagues of mine are affiliates of them. Now, this isn't firing shots directly at them. This is really just taking a hard look at what is actually happening on the actual sites themselves. Now, of course, if you are a content creator and you do wish to be affiliated with them, that is entirely your choice, and there are many reasons why people do. Personally, this is just the reasons why I wouldn't, because ultimately I live in a country or in a region that is directly affected by the effects of grey market, and that's why I feel so strongly about it. Now, everybody else has their own opinions, obviously, and this is not here to convince you otherwise. After all, if you want to go after a cheaper game, you want to get a cheaper price, that is entirely up to you. It's not something I will endorse nor tell you one way or the other. Ultimately, it's a decision you make on your own when you're purchasing the game. But what is happening in the actual games industry when it comes to responding to grey market is that you're going to be facing a high amount of risk when it comes to purchasing from these sites as well, because should the keys that you purchase ultimately end up being illegally obtained, for example, then you will face a problem with trying to get a refund when Steam or whichever platform decides to revoke those keys. So it's really just a friendly warning to any customer out there that is looking to purchase these things. This is what is actually happening. This is also not to say that G2A and Kinguin have 100% illegal keys. As I've said, the keys that are sold on there can vary in location. The main problem being just as a consumer you have no way of knowing, since it's through individual sellers. Now, as I've said, compared to Green Man Gaming or other authorized distributors where they do actually state where the keys come from, or they do have some form of authorization to resell or to just directly distribute, then those things do come into play as well, and that's where you have a form of legitimacy that you can fall back on. So in the end, it's just a really lengthy, kind of rambly video about this whole subject. I have a script in front of me, but it's just that this is something I feel so passionate about, so I went a little bit extra on the end there. So if you've stuck this far with me talking about this, thank you very much. And if you have enjoyed the video, if you found it informative, please don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to find out more, I will be leaving links to the relevant things that I've cited in this video down in the description below. And leave a comment down below if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts on the subject. Just feel free to have a discussion down in the comments. I will be reading that. And subscribe if you're new to the channel. I know this is probably not the best introduction to the channel, but I feel that this is a subject that needs to be talked about, because as these sites gain a lot more popularity, I think it's high time that people understood what is actually happening one way or the other. Now, thank you very much for watching. My name is Panzer, and I'll see you next time.